What if I told you this old Ford Escort has a better power-to-weight ratio than a Porsche 911 GT3, suspension components shared with a Gordon Murray T50, and an engine more power-dense than an Aston Martin Valkyrie, one that screams all the way to 10,000 revolutions per minute? You'd probably think I'd lost my mind, but every single word of that is true. This is not your grandfather's Escort. This is the Ford Escort Mark I RS from Boreham Motorworks. And the first thing you need to understand is that this isn't a resto mod. It isn't someone who bought an old shell and shoved a modern engine in it. This is a completely new car, built entirely from scratch, with Ford's official blessing and a chassis plaque to prove it. Only 150 will ever be made. It starts at £295,000. Fully spec'd, you're looking at £350,000. Yes, for a Ford Escort. And once we've gone through every detail of what this thing actually is, I genuinely think the conversation around that price gets very interesting. So let's get into it. The look. Standing back and looking at it from a distance, it just looks like a classic Escort with bubble arches. And honestly, that shape still holds up beautifully. It's timeless, clean, purposeful. But the magic of this car is what happens when you start moving closer and paying attention to the details. Because that's when you start noticing the billet aluminum. It's absolutely everywhere. The door handles, the exterior trim, the badging, the switches. And it gives the car this incredible sense of texture and depth. These aren't just parts bolted on. They feel considered, crafted, and deliberately placed. The door handles alone are genuinely beautiful things to hold. Round the back, the exhausts are small and restrained, chrome-tipped, perfectly proportioned, with the Boreham Motorworks signature enamel badges sitting alongside them. It would have been very easy to fit massive exhaust tips here and make a statement. They didn't, and it's better for it. Pop the boot open with the key, and it's a proper key, with real weight and the same design motif as the interior switchgear, and you're immediately confronted with something that does not belong in any ordinary Escort. Carbon fiber panels, a carbon surround, and the fuel tank sitting there completely exposed and looking absolutely gorgeous. This is the moment where the car starts revealing what it truly is. Inside the cabin is small, properly small, but it's one of those spaces where every square inch feels intentional. The upright A-pillars, the close windscreen, the wind-up windows. It still feels like an Escort in here. And that's the point. Boreham haven't tried to erase the car's identity. They've just elevated everything around it. Carbon fiber door panels, tactile leather, a carbon fiber roll cage behind the seats that looks absolutely right in here, helmet holders in the back. The air vents are nicely detailed. The Breitling rally clocks, developed in partnership with Breitling specifically for this car, are a work of art. The weight of them, the sound of them ticking, the action of the start-stop. They're an optional extra, but they might be the thing I'd least want to leave out. But the real star of the interior, genuinely the thing that makes you want to just sit here and not get out, is the gearbox. Dogleg first, 5-speed, with a long lever positioned perfectly relative to the steering wheel. The action of that shift is exceptional. It's mechanical, precise, tactile, and deeply satisfying in a way that modern gearboxes simply cannot replicate. You could sit in this car, engine off, and just change gears for 20 minutes and come away smiling. The deep dish steering wheel feels right in your hands. Everything is close. Everything is within reach. And the overall quality of the fit and finish is in a completely different league to anything you'd ever associate with an Escort. This is a properly well-made car. Now this is where things get seriously impressive, because underneath that classic steel body, which has been reinforced to make the chassis 50% stiffer, is a piece of engineering that has no right being in a car that looks like this. At the front, there's a completely bespoke subframe, designed entirely from scratch for this car. That's given Boreham the freedom to move the engine further back and the wheels further forward, resulting in a weight distribution of approximately 55 front, 45 rear. It's also given them far more flexibility with the suspension geometry. Adjustable top mounts allow them to dial in exactly what they want. The dampers are two-way adjustable R53 units, supplied by the same firm that builds the suspension for the Gordon Murray T50. That's not a throwaway comparison. That's a genuine statement of intent about what kind of car this is supposed to be. The power steering is electric, but it behaves in a very particular way. It assists at low speeds and then progressively backs off as the car picks up pace. The faster you go, the more direct and unfiltered the steering becomes. Again, very similar in philosophy to the T50. There is no ABS. There is no brake servo. The braking system is as pure and unassisted as it gets. This car is designed to give you everything it has and ask you to deal with it. Out back, the original solid iron rear axle, which weighed close to 100 kilograms, has been completely replaced. The new unit is aluminium with titanium axle tubes. It weighs roughly half as much. The old leaf springs are gone too, replaced by coil-over trailing arms with Watts linkages. The whole rear end is a transformation. Put it all together, and this car tips the scales at just 895 kilograms. That number is the foundation for everything else this car promises to do. The engines. There are two engine options, and they couldn't be more different. The first is a period-correct 1.8-liter twin-cam taken directly from the Allen Man racing Escort. It produces 185 horsepower, revs to around 8,000 revolutions per minute, and pairs with a 4-speed manual gearbox. It's the purest choice. It's historically correct. And it's what you get for the base price. But then there's the engine that has everyone talking. The one that virtually every single customer speccing one of these cars is choosing. Boreham calls it the 10K. The official designation is the BD1033J, and those numbers tell you everything. It runs to 10,000 revolutions per minute. It produces 325 horsepower, though when they first built it, they thought it would make around 295. It's a 2.1-liter, 16-valve unit with Formula One-inspired port and valve geometry. It has a dry sump, carbon inlet trumpets, a carbon intake manifold, and it weighs just 85 kilograms. Visually, it was designed to look like a classic Ford BD engine, the kind you'd have found in old Escorts and Formula Ford racers, but mechanically it shares absolutely nothing with that engine. This was designed from a blank sheet, with 3D printed casting used to remove as much material as possible. The result is an engine that looks elegantly simple, but is deeply exotic underneath. Peak torque arrives between 6,000 and 12,000 revolutions per minute, but the torque curve is reportedly remarkably flat all the way to the limiter. It's not about one big hit of power. It's about an engine that keeps pulling and pulling as the revs climb toward that 10,000 RPM ceiling. And now let's talk about what that actually means in terms of power density, because this is where the numbers become genuinely staggering. The Ferrari 458 Specials V8, widely regarded as one of the greatest naturally aspirated engines ever built, produces 133 horsepower per liter. The Porsche GT3 RS Flat 6 makes 130 horsepower per liter. The Ferrari 12 Cilindri 512, 126. The Cosworth 512 in the Aston Martin Valkyrie, one of the most exotic road car engines ever created. 153 horsepower